speed assisted that I'm using is with 300 centimeters. Also, another javelin shot, bottom of the ocean. The great thing about it is it has lots of accessories. So last javelin shot with the Insta360, this time in a car. Okay, so it gives you something like a GTA vibe. So here's how it looks like. Yeah, another one, I'm using it with the bullet time handle. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but this is how it looks like. So you can get shots like this. Okay, and last one, using the hand strap. Okay, thanks to its close speed stabilization, we get really stable or stabilized shots right there. Okay, so those are just some of the shots that I have on land, and I've been getting a lot of questions. And in terms of shooting it with it underwater, one of the most frequently asked questions is that people are supposed to be invisible selfie stick. If I can with your underwater videos and shows. So that's just one of the many things that we'll talk about this afternoon with me. So, hello everyone, I am Anne Gumiran. Just to introduce myself, I am a travel journalist, a certified freediver, and I've been using my Insta360 camera since the last quarter of 2020. And I'm also a digital content creator. So, let's talk about the Insta360 cameras. Insta360 cameras are waterproof, and it varies in terms of depth. We have here the Insta360 RS, the modular one. It's waterproof up to 5 meters, but with a dive case, it can be waterproof up to 60 meters. So imagine how deep is that. Okay, so how can you make the best out of your Insta360 cameras? We really recommend using the dive case when you're going to dive or just snorkeling. And you'll see the reason why later. Then of course the patience. And to those who are very familiar with Insta360 cameras, you need to have the patience in setting the keyframes. Because unlike any other action cameras, you have to click and shoot. This one, you get the 360 footage wherein you have to reframe and set keyframes to whatever angle you want to run it to be. So, what's the best thing about this 360 camera when you use it underwater? The most favorite thing about it is its AI in terms of color correction. It corrects the color of the thing that you shoot underwater as long as there's good lighting and visibility.
hindi siya ganun intensive sa computer.
Style ng workshop ko. So now we're going to the workshop proper. So I'm going to be discussing maybe 3 or 4 things today. First, and so that was the objective. But of course, we also had to tell a story about it. Okay, so the next slide basically takes you into my brain. Okay, so this is how it works. For me, it could be different for you, but you can also base this as to how you want to think and conceptualize. I will always start up with the story and the concept, followed by the objective. These two go hand in hand. Para silang 1.1 and 1.1. So magkasama talaga sila. Mahirap silang i-separate from each other because they go hand in hand, especially if you are working with brands or if you have a client. If it's a personal project, you can be a little bit more, you can be a little bit more flexible with this, but I do suggest still having a story, a concept, and an objective, even if it is a personal project. Going back to this, na parang kunyari sobrang nalulost ka na, ang dami nang nangyayari sa mga sinushoot mo. Lalo na when you're shooting, na parang ang daming nangyayari, ang dami mo palang gusto pang i-shoot. Kailangan mong bumalik sa story, sa concept, at sa objective mo. Pag bumabalik ka doon, you kind of center yourself and realize, okay, I don't need pala all of these shots. Okay, hindi ko pala kailangan lahat to. I can go on with like my shot list as planned. Followed by, okay, nauna ako ng konti. Followed by a script. You can see earlier that I don't really VO so much for my videos, but I felt like the story needed it. If I just showed you the video, then it would have no context. It would just be like a series of video that someone went to in Binondo. That was it, and you wouldn't know that the whole point of it was because that I wanted to showcase the 24-105 and the A7 Mark IV for you guys. Okay, so that's when I started with the script first. So narrowed down the story, the concept, the objective. I started the script a little bit, and from the script, I also started to do my shot list. So yung shot list was also half and half, medyo ano rin siya, parang location list na rin, because we were shooting on location. So, medyo nagtagal ako dito kasi the goal was for that video was not to feature any of the usual spots that people would go to in Binondo. Like people know that, Shanghai, the Siopao, New Poheng. We still went to New Poheng. Masarap talaga siya eh. But I also didn't feature Waying. I mean, you can see it there, but we didn't eat there. So it was also here in this part, in the script and the shot list, also came research. So where this is when I was looking for maybe newer places, ang dami kong pinanood na vlog. Nasagad ko ata lahat ng Binondo 2022 food tour, food vlog, walking tour, lahat. So I tried to look for a street where it would be a little bit more quiet, where there would be something more interesting, where it would have more texture. And we were so lucky that because I did the research, and I put a little bit of time and effort into creating this video, para solid yung story, solid yung concept, yung objective nandun. We were so lucky that all of the places that we went to, the owners allowed us to shoot. Like, pinapupunta nila kami sa... Took me a while to get this. I will always tell my DOP, pan it. Sabi niya, paano ko track? Direct, sa likod siya, track, sorry. So like, imagine the team that I was working with, I was starting out as a director. To this day, parang iba yung connection ko sa kanila. I really told them, sana konting patience kasi, you know, there are a lot of things I don't know yet. So I hope you're just a little bit more patient with me. So tracking is from left to right, track left, track right. Okay, so it's moving the camera. Dolly in and dolly out, dolly in, dolly out. Okay? Handheld. So yun, it's basically where you're just holding the camera. Hindi ko na nilagay yung gimbal. Alam niyo na naman yun. Pag gimbal, nilagay niyo sa gimbal. So there, just some of the movements, of course, that you can do. So when you're shooting food, all of these movements you can do. The most common, of course, is panning. Tilting, not so much. Tracking, of course, definitely when you're using a slider, you can. Dolly in and dolly out, definitely using a slider as well. You dolly in to emphasize on a movement or in a subject or an action. You dolly out, of course, to show if you're showing a finished product. Diba? So dolly in, dolly out. All of these movements, you have to understand that you are trying to emphasize something. So panning, of course, can be to introduce to the frame. Tilting, depende how you want to do that. But for me, I usually tilt up and tilt down when I'm mostly shooting a person or I have a subject in front of me. That's the nagsasalita, aka hindi pagkain. Dolly in, dolly out, this is, I think, one of my most used movements. But recently, we have just been doing digital zoom-ins, which we do in post, because it saves us time, because the nature of some of our projects requires us to be shooting 7 recipe videos? 7 recipe videos in one day from start to finish, aka from chopping to luto. May approval pa ng kliyente. So, medyo malala yun. Hindi siya yung type na, okay, we can move on na next. Handheld, I like this usually when I like shooting handheld for myself, for personal content. Also, it's practice for me. When I travel, I never travel with a gimbal. I do everything handheld. Active stabilization, I'm okay to sacrifice with a little bit more crop. So I'll just either bring a wider lens or embrace the crop. Yun lang siya. Okay. Another thing with movement is that, of course, you can always follow the action. This applies a lot to sports and to food. Following actions of food is, especially when you're shooting recipe videos, chopping, whisking, luto, steering, everything, you can follow action, but just be very careful that you still also have to note na parang kailangan nakikita mo na, okay, sige, nagsisteer, hindi mo naman kailangan iganon rin yung camera. You can follow it by slow movements, kasi kailangan mo isipin, you have to always play back your footage, titignan mo kung nakakahilo ba siya masyado. So, there. Follow action works a lot with food, especially if the type you're doing is, I hate this word, but if you want to be a little bit more dynamic with your shots, when they do all of this and they do like the fancy transitions, I'm not a fan of it. Sometimes you are required to do it for work, but for me personally, I'm not a fan. Maybe because I'm a little bit more traditional and I always like focusing on the beauty of the food and the natural movement of food. Coverage. Now, the thing with coverage is that the more you have, the more coverage you have, the more flexible you can be with your editing. So this is when a shot list is important. Kung sinabi ko sa inyo earlier, even if I have a shot list, I will always do a little bit of extra shots if kaya. Why do we do this? Is because sometimes in post-production, hahanapin siya sa amin ng kliyente. And ang hirap sa base for run-and-gun setups, docus, applies to a commercial setup, basically applies to whatever genre of video you are shooting. Imagine lalo na sa weddings, kasi one isa lang yun eh. Walang take two yung weddings eh. So sa kanila, the more the merrier. Even when we do sometimes coverage work, event coverage, we can't tell an international act na parang pwedeng pasok ka ulit kasi wala ka sa gitna ng stage eh. So naka-center kasi kami pero hindi pumasok ka, wala ka sa center. So yun. So for this, our fix, at least for us as a studio, we always have multiple cameras. Average of 2, maximum of 5. If we have to. We've done a 5 cam setup. It was terrible. It was too tiring. Our cam ops were rolling 2 cameras at the same time. We had to trigger one more on top, but it's too tiring. So now we just do 3 to 4. That's more than enough. Yung pang best example, recipe video. We're gonna do scrambled eggs. So what I'm gonna do first to do scrambled eggs, I'm going to whisk the eggs, right? So when I'm whisking the eggs, I can start. So there, one shot, multiple angles. Okay. That's how you can get away with it. In post, it will look a little bit more interesting. Because you could have actually just shot that straight on na parang forever, kapag ka 45. But if you watch it, we do in post. We so amused, parang sila pabubore. Okay? We're now to a few more things. So details. Details for me are the textures of the video. So details can be a close-up shot of something. Details can be an establishing shot. It can be a restaurant, like the facade of the restaurant. So details are just B-rolls. I just don't want to call them B-rolls. Why they're so important is because they add a little bit more depth into your video. Instead of just, sabihin natin, magsisunod ka ng isang restaurant as logo. That could be interesting too. But imagine if you have a little bit of build-up. So, meron kang at the start, may montage ka ng mabilis na cuts na, oh, what's this? This is the establishment. And then like, papasok ka sa kitchen. Diba? So, there's just more story, there's more depth into your video rather than like, at the start pa lang, boom, burrito. Alam mo na, binigay mo na lahat. Anyways, that could work a little more for long form, but for TikTok and Instagram, you need to be able to capture your audience within the first 5 seconds.